Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be adding some images to the center of these Tart Tins. I'm making a template right now just to make it a little bit easier so I can get some paper cut out and fit it into here. And so what I'm going to do is, my printer, it's it's doing something weird, and I had a great plan for this project, but because I couldn't get it working, I had to improvise, and sometimes we just got to make things work. So what I'm going to do instead is stamp into the middle of this and create my own decoupage. So what I had to do was take a stamp that I used in a previous project, and you'll see that here in a minute. So this is a bird stamp. It's two birds on a branch. Because I need 3 images, I'm going to split this stamp up. So the first one is going to be of both of the birds' heads. And so you can see that there, the reference picture. And so what I do for the second one is I just ink part of one of the birds. And I positioned it in a way to where it looked like a totally different stamp. So I raised that one side a little bit higher, and so it looks like a different stamp. And now I'm going to use the other bird's head and just place that on there. So now it looks like 3 separate images when it's really just one stamp. And so that made it work for today. Again, sometimes you just gotta use what you got and make it work. So now I'm just inking this for a little bit of age. I do end up changing to a different ink. This ink was a little bit yellow orange for me, but I'll show you that in just a minute. So I am going to wrinkle up this paper. I do like to do that sometimes just to add a little bit of interest. And so I'm doing my little Mod Podge there, and I'm going to throw that in there. So now I've got this wood box. I'm not totally sure what it is. It may be a lid to a box, but I'm going to use this as a frame for my tins. And now I've got some more of the encyclopedia paper, and I'm just going to cover the center of that box. I do have to use 2 pieces of this because of the length. And what I end up doing is covering that center there with, I position the paper in a way to where I can cover up that center seam with one of the Tart Tins. And so now here I am inking this again. You can see here where I position that seam right in the center. That way that tin can cover it up. And so now we want to get these evenly spaced. And so I'm just going to hot glue these in, kind of eyeballing it. Now I'm using my palette knife and white acrylic paint. I could have just used a brush and painted this, but this is so much more interesting, and I'm really liking using palette knives right now. I have a feeling I'll be using them a lot more in the future. They're just a lot of fun. And so now let's just get that on there. I decided to switch out this ink. The one here that I used is called Brush Corduroy, and it's a little too orangey or yellow for me. I really wanted this to be darker, so I'm using a second ink called Gathered Twigs. It is definitely more of an antique brown, and I like how that looks a lot better. It's a small detail, but it's enough for me to want to go ahead and switch it out. You know, I like what I like. And so now I just made a quick little bow with 2 pieces of this twine. And now I'm just going to hot glue that right to the top. It needed something just a little bit more. So I created a simple bow right there. And that completes project number 1. For project number 2, I'm using this bird I got from the Dollar Tree. I did get them this season for spring, and I'm sure they still have them there. They're actually probably maybe in their clearance section or something, because I know they moved out all their spring stuff and put their summer in. But there may still be some of these around, and so I had to buy a few of them for my stash. But I painted that in a base coat of black. I wasn't liking that blue, and I wanted the white to be nice and sharp, so I gave it that black undercoat. And now I'm kind of just dry brushing the white. This bird does take on a couple of different looks, and you'll see that here in a little bit. Now, okay, this project, okay, so I'm using this tan to paint the inside of this, and it was starting to feel a little spring for me, and I kind of want to start moving into the fall colors, and so I end up switching out this entire thing, but I just want to show you the difference between the two. I've got that white bird and then the beige on the inside. Now I paint that, dry brush some white acrylic paint. I'm going to use this native grass that I thrifted, and so I'm just kind of figuring out how I'm going to get this in there and get that bird to be level. So I end up just crumpling this all up into a ball and just hot gluing it in there. I added a hanger to the back with some twine, and whenever I do that, I do like to add some kind of a backing to this. So I just used more of the encyclopedia paper to cover up the glue and the ends of the twine, just for a cleaner look. And so, okay, now I end up painting the bird in the same tan as the tin, and I wasn't liking how that was looking. Like I said, I end up switching out this entire project. It looks totally different at the end, but I think you're gonna like it. So let's just get this finished up here with the tan, and then I switch over to some acrylic paint in the color Coffee Bean. and it just mimics an antique, look. And so let's go ahead. Let's see if I switch that over. Okay, so that is the coffee bean color, and it really adds kind of an antique. I could have used antique wax. Sometimes I just decide what I decide. Okay, so here we go. And I'm just going to rip that whole thing out. Sometimes you got to do it. And so, okay, so I pull that whole thing apart, and then I'm going to paint this tin black. I've got a piece of foam here, my E6000, and some hot glue. I'm creating a little bit of a shelf for the bird to get him in there securely and level. That way I can add moss around the bottom. And so I did end up shaping that so it fits in the tin a lot better. And so now you can see that bird is definitely a color that I like. So now I'm taking my moss. Okay, I've got this longer, it's kind of like a faux Spanish moss, and I wish I knew where to get it. I thrifted this a long time ago, and I've just used almost every last bit of it. I really, really like it. And so I'm using this because it adds some height and additional interest than just our standard moss. And I wanted to create kind of a frame around that bird. So we're going to get that in there. And now I'm just going to throw in moss to cover up the foam. And it's definitely looking much better than the lighter colors. Again, I want to start taking my work into the fall and Halloween season and just kind of introduce the darker colors so it's not so much of a shock. I can go right in with Halloween, but I'm going to just kind of meander my way into that season. And so I do end up adding this branch. I went outside real quick, grabbed a little piece and cut it to size, and I'm just gluing that in there. For project number 3, I've got this tin. I got it at the Dollar Tree. It was probably $1.25. And so I really, really like these because they have the pre-cut holes with a hanger. And I'm surprised I don't see more crafters using these, really. I just think they're so much fun. And so what I'm going to do now again, because my printer wasn't working, I had a great plan for this. So now I have to improvise. I'm making another template for the center. I did paint that center. I wasn't thinking. I just went ahead and painted the whole thing. But I'm going to be covering it up. So I'm creating a template with some craft paper. Once I place the encyclopedia paper in there, I do like to get a towel and press everything down. Okay, so there we go. You can see that on the bottom left, the paint that got onto the paper. That's okay. will make it work, and sometimes it's a happy accident. It gives me an idea for the rest of the project, and because I make so many projects, I don't worry about stuff like that anymore. I just go with it, and so you'll see what I mean here at the end of this project. So I have this image of a storefront. It's a Victorian storefront, and I think it's for like a paper company or something. But I'm just going to cut this to fit and place that in there, and then I start adding to the center of this. Because of that paint little mishap there in the corner, I'm going to start adding some different interest. So let's get the Mod Podge on there. I'm going to take some black acrylic paint and just go around the edge of this, really kind of, free form, nothing crazy, but I do want to blend in the edge of the paint with some ink. So I'm going in with that dark brown ink just to kind of bring it in a little bit, soften it, add some interest to the entire thing and some age. Okay, so this is something I've never really done, but it came to me, so I'm going with it. I took a black pen and I'm just going to kind of freely draw around and create just a little bit of, I don't know, I'm not getting real particular. I could do some filigree and spend a lot of time on this, but I'm looking forward to Halloween, and this kind of reminds me of just a Halloween project. And now I'm taking a stamp of a little filigree, adding that to the top. And I really like how this project turned out. It gave me some ideas for what I can do here in the season coming up. It's a little wild, a little different than what I do, but that is the way of creating. We just kind of experiment and try new things. So now I'm just going to add some tulle for a hanger. I'm just going to tie a couple of knots in the ends of these. And so that completes project number 3. I really hope that I inspired you guys to try new things and experiment. That's what creating is all about. And I had a lot of fun with this project. It gave me a lot of neat ideas, and I really hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think. Please don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!